Alright folks, welcome back to another Blockhouse Tactics video. Today we have a special guest, Leper, who you guys will know on the Infinity forums as Leper. Also, if you look for him on Facebook, his real name's John, but don't look for John, look for Leper McLeperson. So thanks dude for coming in for a Tactics video.
Absolutely.
Bam.
Always a pleasure.
Nice and good. Alright, so today we're going to be covering a few orders, and what those orders are going to entail is going to be using basic ballistic skills. There's all kinds of things that come into ballistic skills, such as surprise attack and things like that. We're not going to worry about that this time. We're just going to cover basic ballistics, dice canceling each other out, what crits do, kind of the difference between M2 and M3 as far as crits go, as far as ties go, because that changed a lot. I'm kind of liking the change, but we'll go over the change a little bit more once we see bullets start flying and such. So that's going to be today's episode. I believe the next is going to be, per Leper's suggestion here, we're going to do hacking and hacking plus. We're going to kind of split up hacking because if you've read the back of the book, you've seen that it's a little more in depth than it was in 2nd edition. So the next episode is going to be hacking and hacking plus, and then we're going to go into assault and defense hacking. But today, we're going to keep it simple. We have set up here, you can probably see our nice little camera here. We have a scenario down here, which we'll get to in just a second, where we'll be spinning orders. John is going to be playing the role of the Toha, and I will be playing the role of my drunken wolver and his companion, the Axe Doctor, because what better companion is there? Let's go ahead and switch to our fancy screen here. Bam, overlay. Okay, so John, give us a rundown of what you got going on your side.
Okay. What we have today is 2 McCalls. We're going to say that they're just basic McCalls with flamethrower and 0V smoke, and Kamiel line troop, all of that in a Toha triad. Again, the Kamiel line troop is basic, no frills, no fancy stuff, because we don't really need it yet.
Yeah, we're just basic weapons.
Hidden behind the building, which you can't see on the big camera, but you can see on the small, is a Choksa HMG Neurocynetics 360 visor, because they rock.
Yeah. Why? You can take up to 4 of them for 100 points in 4 SWC, which I commonly take 3 of them, because why not? And people like that and people don't like that. It's fun to put 2 Choksa HMGs and like, okay, only 2. And then you have the one hidden back and you're like, oh, now this guy as well. And like, you're dick. Which I have to agree. So, to get things started off, there are 2 kinds of roles in the game. There are the 2 kind of basic roles. There's a face-to-face and then there's a normal role. So to start things off, we're going to do kind of a normal roll scenario, as well as what happens with the dice once they hit the table. So I'm going to spin an order with my drunken wolver here, and he's going to waddle on up.
This is actually going to be face-to-face roll, not a normal roll.
Right. Yeah, we're going to cover face-to-face roll first, like he said. Like, I've got the drunken wolver, man. I've got an excuse. So he's going to waddle on up. Something to take into consideration is silhouettes. Silhouettes are huge now because they hide and both allow you to get shot a lot easier. They almost, in my opinion, make you fatter.
It's sort of a toss-up. The way that geometry and the old, not silhouettes, but line of fire rules worked, was also pretty inclusive. It was just a matter of having to explain that every time to somebody.
Right. So I can get this part of your model, but you can't. But you can't see it. Oh shit.
Yeah. Well, as a person who does geometry for a living, that's a relatively easy distinction for me to make.
Right.
But to your average, guy who just wants to show up and play with his metal dollies and have some fun, that's a totally different story, and I understand.
Infinity proofs, because. Proofs.
No.
So let's see. The line of fire is the silhouettes. You can block. So the thing is with the silhouette is you can block the model behind you. So a tag can now block line of sight to everything behind its huge silhouette. However, stuff behind its silhouette doesn't get cover. So you block line of sight, but you don't get cover, which is 10 line half of the other. Another thing with silhouettes is you want to make sure that your model to gain cover has more than a third of its model touching the terrain that it's trying to gain cover from.
Hidden by the terrain.
Yeah, hidden by the terrain. If you have, less than a third, then you don't get cover. And having a silhouette profile, something you can place by it, helps with this. You place your model with a silhouette template, and that's a little easier to tell cover. Otherwise, you kind of have to do a little bit of geometry to find out.
Well, now the other thing to bear in mind is that because line of fire is reciprocal, if you have, say, this wolver is peeking out just enough to where a sliver of his silhouette is showing, but he can see more than the 3mm by 3mm square of the Choxa. He can draw a line of fire to the Choxa, which means that the Choxa can draw a line of fire back. Right. So the 3mm squares are important, but it is important to keep in mind that if one of them can see 3mm to the other, they can both basically take their shots. So this, to me, makes it very important to announce intent when you're moving, and it also makes it important, if it wasn't important to you before, to be a good sport and accept announcements of intent, rather than spend 20 minutes fiddling over a 1/4 of a millimeter movement on a model.
Yeah. Work with your opponent. I mean, he's technically your enemy, but work with him, and it makes the game go a lot better.
We're all here to have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Most little middle dolls with adult dollhouses involved, and sometimes some foam core.
Bitches love
And
dollhouses.
bitches love dollhouses. Trademark Dexter. So, or patent trademark pending Dexter. Yeah. So now we've assessed that the wolver has line of sight to the Choxa has line of sight to the wolver. The wolver has an NK12, so I'm going to get 3 dice, and the Choxa has the neurokinetic HMG. Now it's my active turn, but a little special skill that the Choxa has is the neurokinetics or neurocinetics, however you want to pronounce it, which allows him to shoot his full burst in the reactive turn. In the active turn, he only has 1 shot. So essentially, neurokinetics reverses the ARO and active turn burst standards. So he's going to chunk all 4 dice at me. I'm going to chunk all 3 dice at him. So now we have to, the next thing you do is, okay, I move up. You're going to declare an ARO of shoot, right?
Yes.
And so then I'm going to say, well, my second skill is going to be to shoot. One good thing to kind of get into practice is do your short skill and then ask for an ARO.
Yeah.
Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't say I'm going to move and then shoot, because then that takes away some of the tactical advantages you have of having that second held short skill. So even if you're just standing up on a building and you don't want to move anywhere, say I wiggle my ass, which is my move skill, and then you ask for the
Well, there's
arrow.
actually idle now for that. You can actually declare idle, and then ask for the reaction.
I'm going to go with wiggle my ass.
Wiggle my ass is much more fun. I will absolutely agree with that.
It needs to be a short skill that gets put into the game of wiggle my ass.
Then again, that also depends on the model.
Yes.
There are some models that works much better for.
A Moria wiggle my ass would be very distracting, so maybe it's a -3 to the ballistic skill coming at you, right? I don't know. At this point, we're not even saying real rules.
Yeah. Why would we? Why would we discuss actual rules?
So yeah, I'm going to move. He's going to shoot. I'm going to shoot back. Is kind of the order that goes. And for the purposes of this demo, we've went ahead and we've staged a dice roll so that we can go into kind of what happens.
Take that, Cinema Veritas.
Yes. Words. So the ballistic skill of the Choxa is an 11. I believe the Wolver is a 12. You can tell me I'm wrong. I did these dice based on it being a 12.
I don't think it really matters at this point.
I don't think it really matters, right. So the red dice are going to be what the Choxa rolled. The orange dice are going to be what the Wolver rolled. So the thing is with dice is a higher dice is going to cancel out a lower dice. So we can see here that automatically 18 and the 20 are gone. They're just total misses.
Now, to interpret the rest of these rolls, it's important to note that we already pre-measured the distance, which you don't pre-measure, but we'll say that we measured in the normal order of events. Shots were declared, range was measured, and we found it to be just outside of 8 inches, which works excellent for the Joxa because he doesn't take an additional -3.
Right. So yeah, this is actually, I jumped ahead of myself a little bit, right? And so what you would do is after that, after you declare your shots, you would measure and then start to take into account modifiers.
Yes.
So in this case, we don't have a terrible amount of modifiers. The only thing we have is cover.
Yeah.
Cover gives you -3 to the ballistic skill. So we would measure our range. We would find out if we have +3 or -3, and then we would say, okay, do we have cover? Do we have mimetism? Do we have ODD? Do we have anything like that? Now modifiers only go up to or down 12.
Yes.
So you can you never go over or under 12. If you're a BS 13, you're always going to hit at least on a 1. You can never go lower than that. Which, way to go, Pano. So.
Except for willpower.
Yeah, except for willpower, and really that's why they gave you command tokens, because your Dr. Kevorkian needs them. So, well, we measured the range. We both have cover. So essentially, we're the Joxa is now looking for 8s because his range is a flat range, right?
Yes.
So he now takes the -3, goes down. Now he's looking for an 8. And the Wolver is his I believe +3, maybe for NK12.
Yes.
And then down 3 for being in cover. So he's essentially at his flat 12. Okay, now to the dice rolls. So we go back to here, and we see, okay, so the Joxa rolled a 7, 5, and an 8. Okay, so at least the 5 is going to cancel out the 3. The 3 is going to take out the 6.
Or the
5 is going to take out the
6 will take out the
6
5.
will take out the 5.
Words.
Use
your words, Joe.
And then the 7 will take out the 6. However, that's all well and fantastic, but the Joxa rolled an 8, which is a critical. Now, what that means is unless I rolled a critical, then no matter what my dice are, they just go away, and the Joxa will hit that one time, or actually the 2 times, because my 6 will still cancel out the 5.
Yes.
And so now, if the 7 and the 8 are a hit.
Yeah.
However, the 8 is a critical.
Yes. Now, it's important to note, just because we are being very detailed and very specific here, that although all of his successes go away when I have a crit, his successes are still able to cancel out my non-critical successes. So that's why the 6, even though it was canceled out itself, is still able to cancel out the 5 that was a success.
Yeah, so it takes down the hits that I may have taken.
Yes.
So in this instance, critical, bam, goes through, no armor save, I take a wound. But because the Wolver is badass, and the only thing that actually has 2 wounds, I have to roll my save for the 7. And for the next example, we're going to say I just fail it. So now my Wolver is unconscious, unfortunately. So
the beer probably didn't help.
Yeah, his ballistics went down -3 for having the beer. He celebrated too early. So now with our next order, we have a Wolver that's down. Crap. What are we going to do about it? Well, let's get into a normal roll. So we have our fancy axe doctor here who's going to go up and try not to amputate the face of the Wolver. So he's going to go into base-to-base contact with an order. And now that the Wolver's unconscious, he's actually prone. Something with structure does not go prone.
Yeah.
Something with a wound, once you go unconscious, will be prone to the size of your base.
Yes.
So as soon as this doctor turns the corner to go repair the Wolver, well, he's now looking down the barrel of a Joxa.
Yes. Now the important thing to note is, even if he wasn't prone, the Joxa is in an elevated position, which would still probably give him line of sight. In this case, we're not going to bother checking it.
Right.
Just because, well, it's an example. It happens.
Yeah.
That's going on.
Yeah,
that's what's going down now.
You don't want to use silhouettes and all kinds of stuff, but we're just trying to get down the base rules.
And honestly, this can be done pretty much with an eyeball as opposed to bothering with a silhouette. So.
Right, yeah, an eyeball, and, something like a laser pointer is always pretty good to have on hand.
You don't want to use the two in conjunction. Eyeballs plus laser pointers is a bad time.
Yeah, there's things like retinal burns. Those are bad.
Yeah.
So, now that we have this situation, I'm going to go doctor my Wolver, and I'm going to assume
The Chox is going to fire.
the Chox is going to try to blow the shit out of the Axe Doctor. So, in that instance, our dice wouldn't go against each other. So he would get his full burst against the Doctor. However, I would also get an unopposed roll to heal the Wolver, to try to bring him back up to life, to face the Choxa again, which I don't know why I'm going at a Choxa with a non-camo token, but it is what it is for this demo, because I wanted to talk about neurokinetics and my favorite Toha model at the same time.
Yes.
So that is that instance where we have normal rolls, and we have a face-to-face roll.
Now, the reason that it is a normal roll and not a face-to-face roll is that the doctor is not going to impact the Choxa in any way. The Wolver coming back to life is not going to affect the Choxa's shot. Now, if the Doctor were, say, throwing smoke, which I don't believe he has...
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. It would be.
But it is Ariadne. I don't know why. Why does the Doctor not have smoke? It's in Ariadne.
Ariadne can't have everything, Joe. I only say that because that's the answer I get every time I ask for something for Aleph.
Yeah.
If you were to say be throwing smoke or something that has a chance of affecting the Choxa or stopping its shots from going through, then this would be a face-to-face roll. But because the revival of our Wolver is not actually going to affect the Choxa in any direct way, other than now he has more targets to mow down, it becomes two normal rolls.
Right. Another good example of this, especially with ITS missions, is say your specialist is going up to a console and it's going to activate that console. Well, something's going to shoot at it. That's going to be another normal roll. Those aren't going to be against each other. If your guy goes up, tags the console, makes his whip, and still gets mowed down, you still get that console, which is very important.
It is.
So that's kind of the face-to-face and normal rolls. We're going to put another model in to talk about. So one of the things that I found out really the game that we played, the team game we played the other day, is getting shot in the back. There is no real getting shot in the back. And what I mean by that is, I don't know where my paracommando went.
She's deployed over here.
Oh, fantastic. She's already there.
Yeah.
So, we'll go back to our scenario of this over here. And our little lady paracommando is here. So she came on the board.
Let's scoot that just a little bit.
We're going to pretend that the Camille here didn't see her come on the board, so she's airborne infiltration, so she would come onto the board outside of 12 inches, and so say for instance the Camille wanted to take a shot, it looks like it's outside of 16 inches, it's got mimetism, we're going to say that it missed for this example, because it only gets it gets two shots because it's in a link team, go Toha triads.
Yep.
So the paracommando has landed successfully. She's just fine. She's going to spin an order to now move up. Now, there are things that happen now that involve splitting bursts, dodging, and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to say I spin an order to move up. What is your reaction with your troops?
Well, I am going to actually take a little bit of a risk here, probably stupidly, and well, actually, no, I'm not, because if we can see our McCall here, I was obviously not expecting a paracommando, despite her being on the table already. Yeah. And so his 180-degree arc of fire travels like this, which the paracommando is unfortunately out of.
Okay.
Which means he won't get to react. Now, again, if this were a real game, then I probably would not have shot at her. I just would have announced a turn to face, and we would have had a little bit more fun this turn, but that's not what happened. And sometimes in games that does happen, because I forget things. Our Kamiel, on the other hand, does have line of sight. Once again, I could go ahead and announce alert so my guys could go ahead and turn to face. On the other hand, she does have burst too, and she's in a good range, I believe. So she's going to shoot back at our paracommando and pretty much hope for the best.
Okay. And so, because the reason why you didn't alert, why would that be? Would you lose your ARO for all of them at that point?
Well, if I alert, my guys are going to go ahead and change facing. On the other hand, that doesn't really give me any actual reaction because I have 3 models here within the triad, one of which is not going to be able to do anything either way just because of his placing. Mm-hmm. But I could theoretically next turn have 2 shots at you. On the other hand, you have a weapon with burst, and it's easy to go ahead and split that burst and take 2 shots at my 2 models and take them both out. And I would rather have at least 2 models left on the table, and having the 2 bursts aimed back at you makes your decision on how to split that burst a little bit more difficult, especially since 1 model is in cover and 1 isn't.
Right.
And it gives me a better chance to at least keep 2 of them alive and maybe even take out the paracommando while I'm at it.
Right, because if you would have declared alert, that would have been your ARO, and the other guy would have turned, and then it would have gone back to, I just had a normal roll at him, and the most important part about Infinity is you want face-to-face rolls.
Yes.
You always want to be able to at least throw a dice, because he could roll 2 1s, and I rolled a 3, worst case scenario.
Now, the McCall will be dodging. I'm going to go ahead and declare dodge.
Right.
Even though he doesn't have line of fire, that is actually important in this case. He'll take a -3 to his dodge because he can't draw line of fire. But he still at least gets to dodge.
Right, and then it's a face-to-face.
Yes.
And the difference in this, in 2nd edition, is with 2nd edition, I could have just shot the McCool in the back, and he would have gotten no dice to try and not get shot in the back. And with a McCall, who's like PH 13 or 14, something very decent, he's got at least a 50% or slightly better of negating some shots should I just whiff everything.
Yes.
So I would have taken we'll go ahead and roll here.
Okay. Let me grab a couple of these.
It's exciting. Do some rolls. We'll take some of this stuff out of the way. So I'm going to do 2 shots at your Kamail because she also has 2 shots. So the best face-to-face is trying to match dice. So here's my 2 shots at your Kamail. We'll go ahead and measure out the range here before we throw dice. Unfortunately, I've gotten into the habit, and eventually you may as well, to where you just throw the dice, because sometimes you get a 17, 18, and 20.
And it doesn't matter.
Didn't matter anyway, and you save some time of measuring, figuring out modifications and stuff like that. Starting out as a new player, I would probably recommend go through all your mods. That way you start to learn different modifications.
Now, another thing is some people have an easier time of it than others as far as eyeballing distances go. These 2 are obviously not within 8 inches.
Right.
They're obviously, to me, not over 16, but they are actually pretty close. In this case, they wound up being 14 inches apart, almost exactly.
Nice.
So they're both going to be within their +3 range. Actually,
she's just got a rifle. So,
yeah.
her rifle, and she has mimetism. So there's your +3 -3.
And the Kamiel is in cover. So also +3 -3.
+3 -3. So I'm looking for, I believe, 12s. Don't quote me on these ballistic skills because I don't have them all memorized anymore.
And I'm looking for 11s in this case. There's a 1 and an 8. And a crit.
So I got a 12. So the crit is going to cancel out the 1 and an 8. But in this instance, let's go ahead and talk about ties. So for instance, if he would have rolled an 11, move my 12 in there so you can see it. Bam. So we both crit. In the old edition, my crit would have beat out his crit. But in 3rd edition, if you both crit, it just goes away. It's a wash.
Yes. Now, depending on your feelings, this could be a nice thing. This means that the defender has a better chance. Now, whether you're shooting back or dodging, a crit canceling out a crit effectively works out as a wash or a win for the defender.
Right.
There are people with different feelings on that, and that's fine. The tie goes to the defender is a pretty commonly held trope in many games.
Right.
So I can see the decision there. This also, Infinity is a pretty deadly game as far as your models go. I don't know of any actual fatalities as far as players during play, but for the models, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, shit dies.
Yeah, a lot. So reducing that level of lethality by making crits go ahead and cancel also does serve a purpose to sort of help create a more middle ground for that.
And a more interesting version of this is, say, by the miracle of whatever you believe in, I rolled 2 12s and he rolled 1 11. Well, mine should go through because I got 2. Wrong. No matter how many crits you roll, if the other guy rolls 1 crit and you all roll crits, they all go away. That's just how it is. Love it or leave it. There's no like in this. There's no middle ground.
Yeah.
Now let's say, for instance, talking about ties, I rolled an 11 and he rolled an 11. Well, in 2nd edition, you would have to do maths. You would have to figure out whose ballistic skill, target skill was higher, and then that the person with the
let's
highest
do it this way, because my 11 is still a crit. Which
it is still a crit, so yes, let's
say we both rolled 10s.
Let's go down to a 10.
There we go.
Boom. Now, because before I would have lost because that was a crit. Fantastic. Thanks for the catch. So we both have 10s. My ballistic skill's higher, which in 2nd edition you would have to find out your target number, all this other stuff. Well, if you just tie on dice, same thing. Goes away. It's a wash. Nobody's hurt. Nobody's rolling saves. Nobody's doing guts checks.
Yeah.
They go away, and you spin another order, and you try to kill it again.
Some crazy John Woo bullets shooting each other out of the air happens.
Yes.
That's okay. We're fine with that.
Exactly.
Probably.
Because John Woo, he can make some movies, man. So in that instance, so I would have crit the Camille dies. But now we have our one-on-one dice with the McCool turning around.
Yes.
So his fizz, we'll say it's a 14. If it's not, tell me I'm wrong down below. I have no problem with that.
Pretty sure it's 14.
I'm going to go with 14.
Go.
So I'm going to roll I have 1 dice left out of my burst 3 because I spent 2 at the Camille. Here's my 1 dice and try to...
Well, now here's an interesting thing. 3rd edition also includes a turn to face ARO, which still is at a -3 because I can't draw a line of fire. So my choices here are, if I succeed, if I can either declare a turn to face, which would just pivot him in place, or I can declare a dodge, which won't let me, I don't believe, move towards the model, but other than that, I can move pretty much however I like.
Right.
Up to 2 inches or more if the model has kinematica, and I am pretty
Actually,
sure.
I believe you can because you can dodge intercept. So, which
That's
would be
a separate skill.
Okay.
Intercept is also a separate skill.
Yeah. We've gone over that one. I love intercept now. Engage. That's what it's called.
Engage. There we go. So, in this case, I've actually chosen to dodge in the hopes that not only will I be able to, that I might be able to scoot out at least far enough to get back behind that crate and get some cover. My other option, if it was allowable, would be to dodge towards the model in the hope of getting in heavy flamethrower range.
Right.
Which would make things very, very fun for me and not so fun for the Paracommando.
Yeah, because flame keeps burning. If you don't know, if you're brand new to the game, you fail a flame save, you got to keep rolling it until you put out the fire, which is, it can be deadly. It's more hilariously deadly on a tag that is rolling like shit.
Well, that depends on who's running the tag, Joe.
That's true. It's hilarious for the guy with a flamer. So he's going to dodge and hopes to get behind that crate and survive another day. Maybe dodge again. Should I shoot him again? But we'll go ahead and roll this is now a one-on-one dice roll.
Oh.
He got a 17. I got a 12.
You totally changed that when you moved it on camera. You're a cheater.
I totally cheated.
I did. He didn't.
So the 12 is going to go through. Unfortunately, the dodge didn't work. He had a better than 50% chance, which is a lot better than having 0 chance in 2nd edition.
Yes.
So takes the hit, tries to make the save. It's only one. Hopefully the Choxa makes it. Or the McCool makes it, rather.
Yes. All right. So I've got one actual hit on the Camiel. One actual hit on the McCall is what that worked out to.
Yep.
So our Camiel has armor 1? I don't remember.
I'm not sure. We'll say
it has armor. We're going to say they both have armor 1 just for simplicity's sake.
right.
So they both have armor 1, theoretically. Our Camiel also gets a +3 to her armor because she is in cover. So with the strength 13, I'm looking to beat that with my mods. And a 2 will not do that. So she is definitely unconscious.
Yeah.
It is
Poor Leper's not rolling very good. Thank God it's not a game.
because, well, these are also your dice.
Yes.
So I don't
Dice are fucking him. Ha
Our McCall, on the other hand, is totally going to pass this, which he surprisingly does. There is a 13 with his armor of 1, which may or may not be actually
Theoretical armor of 1.
accurate. Yes.
Don't quote us on the profiles. The rules, however, are solid.
Yes.
Maybe.
In theory.
Theory.
He now has a 14, which actually just barely beats Joe's.
Damage 13. Has the because if you tie there's no crit in an armor roll.
Yes.
If you tie it, you're still dead. You have to exceed it by at least 1.
Yes.
So
Now, I haven't had a chance to brush up on 3rd edition as much as possible. He's made an armor save. He does have to make a guts check, but if he passes the guts check, is he still allowed to go ahead and turn to face because he's been struck this turn?
yes. Well, if you pass your guts check, then you just as far as I know, you just stand your ground. You can't turn face. So
In this case, I am going to actually go ahead and volunteer to fail my guts check because it allows me to do pretty much what I was going to do with the dodge anyway.
Right, and the important thing here is the one thing I know the McCall has is at least martial arts level 2, which does give you courage. So that's why he had the option to make a dice roll or not, is because he has courage. Courage allows you to basically voluntarily fail or just stay your ground.
Yes. And we're going to scoot him back 2 inches, which, as I measured, unfortunately does not allow him to actually get into enough behind the crate to grant him cover. On the other hand, he can still turn and face, so next turn, even though he'll still only be rolling 1 dice because he's out of the triad, he does have a better chance of doing something other than making armor rolls.
Right, so in this case, now he's facing me. He has 0 V smoke. He's fist 14. He can throw a 0 V smoke now at a 17 or 14. Math's hard. 17. I was actually right. Yeah. So he now has, instead of rolling an 11 for his dodge with getting shot in the back, which thank God you can still roll a dice against that. He's now got a chance to beat mine because he's looking for a better target number than I am.
Correct.
However, the link is broken because the old Kamel, well, she bit the dust.
She's not dead. She's just unconscious. If I've got a Kuma tail around here somewhere,
right.
that could be okay. I don't
the
see
most
one on the table.
beefiest of servants ever. Those guys are awesome. So yeah, this is kind of your basic dice rolling. What you do with dice, splitting bursts, a little bit about basic ballistic skill with a few special skills thrown in. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Actually, yes. Since I'm visiting, and Joe has been so kind to go ahead and host us, he and Dexter especially have been very, very nice. I have a special gift, especially for Joe, that I would like to present.
He's got his hand in his pocket, so it makes me think he's going to go like this, and then...
In my defense, I didn't know how the machine worked.
Oh,
And also, in preparation for his upcoming visit to Houston for the Dire States Battle on the Bayou event,
bam! Next weekend,
the
folks.
one thing that you are absolutely going to need, Joe.
Yeah. Let's go back to the other camera because it's way closer. What is this? Bam. That's kind of, I can see where you would probably need that. It's going to help me against flame. However, you know,
I do find it does prevent burning, yes. Or chafing, at least.
I'll need it less, possibly. However, here's the real question, folks. I'm staying with him, so why is he giving me the lube? That is my real dilemma at this point. Maybe checking into a hotel.
I don't want you using my private stash.
Ah, okay.
I
There
go
it
with the
is.
flavored stuff.
That's tasty. Tasty. We're keeping it classy on this one.
That's what do you expect from somebody named Leper?
Other
than class.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I would expect nothing less. So I'm going to, but I'm checking a bag.
You're going to butt?
I'm not checking a bag, so I think I'm kind of screwed. I think it's more than the allowable allowance of
No, it's 4 fluid ounces. That'll get through security.
Thanks, TSA. You fucked me again. I'll need the lube.
Yeah, at least you have the
At
Astroglide.
least I have the Astroglide. Fantastic. Thanks for my my lube. I guess is the correct thing you're supposed to say when you get any gift. I'm not sure. Do you have anything else to say about the game?
Not this time.
Not this time. All right, fantastic. Well, folks, let's get away from this picture of the Astroglide. Thanks for tuning in.
It's a family show, Joe. What are you thinking?
It's so not a family show. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I know I have.
I certainly did.
Fantastic. Tune in next time where I'm going to try and tackle hacking and hacking plus. Dear God, help us all. Thanks for tuning in.